The first thing Julian Sterling noticed when the elevator doors slid open was the smell. Something sweet and sticky, like syrup mixed with the faint chemical tang of floor wax. His brain, wired for control and efficiency, tried to categorize it. It didn't fit. The lobby of Sterling Industries was supposed to smell like nothing. Like money. Like the absence of any human imperfection. The second thing he noticed was the small figure on the floor. A child. A tiny, pajama-clad child with wild brown hair and a pacifier dangling from a clip on his chest, sitting cross-legged in the middle of the polished marble like he owned it. He had a toy screwdriver in one hand and a broken security panel in front of him. Its wires were exposed, a mess of red and blue and yellow, and the child was poking at them with the kind of focused intensity that Julian usually only saw in his own board members during a hostile takeover. Julian stopped walking. His briefcase hung from one hand, his tie loose around his neck, his shirt wrinkled from 12 hours of back-to-back meetings that had ended with his board telling him he was too aggressive, and his fiancée telling him she was done. He had come here to escape. To the one place where he was in control. To the tower he had built from nothing. The glass monument to his own relentless ambition. And there was a toddler dismantling his security system. "Hey," Julian said. His voice came out rougher than he intended. "What are you doing?" The child looked up. His eyes were big and brown, the kind of eyes that hadn't learned to lie yet. He pointed the toy screwdriver at Julian. "Fixing." "Fixing what?" "The beepy box. It was making a sad noise. So I'm helping." Julian blinked. The security panel was a key component of the building's alarm system. It cost more than this child's entire family probably earned in a year. And it was currently being fixed by a person whose hands were so small he was using both of them just to hold the screwdriver. "Where is your father?" Julian demanded. The child shrugged. "He's sleeping." "Sleeping where?" "In the chair." Julian followed the child's gaze to the security desk in the corner. A man was slumped over the console, his head resting on his arms, his lips parted in a faint snore. The nameplate on the desk read, "Marcus Webb, Security Officer." Next to his elbow was a half-eaten granola bar and a picture frame showing a woman with a tired smile that Julian felt something hot and sharp flare in his chest. He had a policy about sleeping on the job. He had a policy about everything. And this man, this guard, had left his toddler unsupervised in the lobby of a major corporation, with access to live wires and a $1,000 control panel. He took a step toward the desk, ready to wake the guard and deliver the kind of dressing down that had made grown executives cry in their offices. But before he could, the child spoke again. "Don't wake him up. He works a lot. He's tired." Julian stopped. He looked down at the child, who had returned to his fixing, his tiny brow furrowed in concentration. "What's your name?" Julian asked. "Leo." "I'm 2 3/4. "That's a very specific age." Leo nodded seriously. "I'm almost 3. That's a big boy. Papa says I'm a big boy." Julian crouched down. His knees cracked. He was 42, but the years of stress and bad posture had made him feel a decade older. He looked at the mess of wires. "Leo, those wires are dangerous. You could get hurt. You could, get zapped." Leo looked at him with the kind of patience that only a toddler could muster. "Nah, I turned it off." "You turned it off." "I pressed the red button. Papa showed me. Red means stop." Julian stared at the panel. The child was right. There was a red kill switch on the side, presumably for emergencies, and it had been depressed. The panel was deactivated. The wires were harmless. He sat back on his heels. "You're very smart, Leo." Leo beamed. "I know. My mommy says I'm her sunshine." The word hit Julian like a physical blow. Mommy. His fiancée had left him 4 hours ago. She had stood in the doorway of his penthouse, her engagement ring in her palm, and told him he had the emotional intelligence of a brick. She said he couldn't love anyone because he didn't know what love was. She said he was a machine, a well-oiled, highly efficient, cold-hearted machine. And then she walked out. Julian had driven to the office because he didn't know where else to go. He had sat in the parking garage for an hour, his hands gripping the steering wheel, his mind replaying every word she had said. He thought about calling her, begging her. He thought about calling his lawyer. He thought about calling anyone. But there was no one. There was never anyone. His phone buzzed. He ignored it. He knew it was his board, demanding to know why he had left the meeting early, demanding to know why he wasn't answering emails. Demanding, always demanding. They never asked if he was okay. They never asked if he had eaten. They never asked if he was lonely. Big man, Leo said, pulling Julian out of his spiral. Why are you making a sad face? Julian touched his own cheek. It was wet. He hadn't realized he was crying. He wiped the tears away quickly, but it was too late. Leo had seen that. I'm just tired. Julian said, you should take a nap. That's what Papa does when he's tired. He takes a nap in the chair. Julian laughed. It was a broken, hollow sound. I don't think I can take a nap. I have a lot of things to do. Leo shook his head. You need a break. The beepy box needed a break. That's why I fixed it. Julian looked at the wires again. The child had actually done a decent job of reconnecting them. Nothing was crossed or frayed. It was a rudimentary fix, but it was a fixed. Where did you learn to do that? Julian asked. I watch Papa. He fixes stuff. He used to build houses. But now he watches the screens. Julian felt a pang of something. It wasn't quite guilt. It was closer to recognition. He had built houses too. Not with his hands, but with his pen. His signature had erected skyscrapers. His decisions had created thousands of jobs. And somewhere along the way, he had stopped seeing the people behind the paperwork. He had stopped seeing anything except numbers and deadlines and quarterly reports. Your father, Julian said slowly. He used to build houses. Leo nodded vigorously. Big houses. With stairs. And windows. Papa is a good builder. But then his back broke. Julian winced. His back broke. The doctor said he can't lift big stuff anymore. So now he watches the screens. And he brings me with him sometimes. We have adventures. Adventures. Julian looked around the lobby. The marble floors. The abstract art on the walls. The potted plants that were replaced every month because the CFO thought they looked lifeless. This was not a place for adventures. It was a place for transactions. He looked back at Leo, who was now trying to fit the security panel back into its housing. His little hands were struggling. Julian reached out and helped him. Together, they managed to snap it into place. See, Leo said, clapping his sticky hands. Fixed. Julian smiled. It was a small smile, barely a twitch of his lips. But it was real. It was the first real smile he had felt in months. Leo, he said. Do you know who I am? Leo tilted his head. You're the big man who looks sad. I'm the owner of this building. I'm the man who pays your father to watch the screens. Leo frowned. Oh, you're the boss. Yes, I'm the boss. Leo pointed a tiny finger at him. You should be nicer to Papa. He works hard. Julian blinked. What do you mean? He says the boss is mean. He says the boss doesn't care about anybody. He says the boss is made of ice. Julian felt the words land like a slap. Of course the guard talked about him. He was the distant figure in the corner office. The man who never smiled. The man who fired people on conference calls. The man who had made an art form out of emotional distance. I'm sorry, Julian said. I didn't know I was mean. Leo shrugged. It's okay. Papa forgives you. He says everybody is fighting a fight. Julian stared at the child. A 2-year-old, maybe 3, had just delivered a piece of wisdom that his own therapist had taken 6 months to explain to him. Everybody is fighting a fight. He had heard that phrase before. He had never believed it. He had always thought his fight was the only one that mattered. But now, looking at this tiny person, sitting on the floor of his lobby with a toy screwdriver, he felt the walls around his heart start to crack. Leo, he said, I think your father is going to be very upset when he wakes up and finds you here. He's going to worry. Leo nodded. He worries a lot. He's a good worrier. Julian laughed again. This time, it was a little less hollow. Can I tell you a secret? Leo leaned in. Okay. I was very sad tonight. I was sadder than I've ever been. And then I found you. And you fixed something. You fixed the beepy box. And you made me feel a little better. Leo's eyes went wide. Really, you're a very good fixer. Leo puffed out his chest. I know. I'm a big boy. Julian reached out and ruffled his hair. The motion was awkward. He wasn't used to touching people. He wasn't used to affection. But Leo didn't seem to notice. He just grinned and leaned into the touch. The security guard stirred. A groan. A shift of weight. Marcus Webb lifted his head, blinking groggily. He rubbed his eyes. He saw his son. He saw the boss. And his face went white. Leo. Marcus scrambled to his feet, nearly knocking over his chair. What are you, Mr. Sterling? I am so sorry. I didn't mean to. He was supposed to be sleeping in the break room. I didn't. Julian held up a hand. It's fine, Marcus. Marcus's mouth opened and closed. I can explain. The babysitter canceled. My wife works the night shift at the hospital. I had no one to leave him with. I know the policy. I know it's against the rules. But I didn't have a choice. I'll take any punishment. Just please don't. It's fine, Julian said again. He fixed my security panel. Marcus looked at the panel. It was put together. The lights were blinking normally. He looked at his son. Then he looked at Julian. Sir, I really don't understand. Leo tugged on Julian's pant leg. Big man, are you okay now? Julian knelt down. His knees cracked again, but he didn't care. I think I'm going to be okay, Leo. Thanks to you. Leo nodded sagely. You should come over for waffles. Papa makes good waffles. He puts chocolate chips in them. Marcus's face went through a series of expressions that Julian couldn't quite read. Shock. Horror. A flicker of something else. Something that might have been hope. Julian stood up. Marcus, I'm going to give you a raise. Effective immediately. And I'm going to approve a family-friendly accommodation for you. Your son is welcome here whenever you need him to be. Marcus stared at him. Sir, I don't know what to say. Say thank you. Leo said. Marcus laughed nervously. Thank you, sir. Julian walked toward the elevator. He felt different. Lighter. The weight that had been pressing on his chest for months had shifted. It wasn't gone, but it was bearable. He reached the elevator and pressed the button. The doors slid open. He stepped inside. And just before they closed, he heard Leo's voice one last time. Bye, big man. Don't be sad anymore. Julian looked at the closing doors. His eyes were wet again. But this time, he didn't wipe them away. The elevator rose. The tower hummed around him. And for the first time in his life, Julian Sterling didn't feel like a machine. He felt like a man. When he reached the penthouse, he didn't go to the bar. He didn't open his laptop. He walked to the window and looked out at the city, the lights flickering like scattered stars. He thought about Leo. He thought about Marcus. He thought about the wife who had left him and the life he had built on a foundation of isolation. And for the first time, he wondered what it would feel like to rebuild it. He pulled out his phone. He scrolled to his fiancée's name. His thumb hovered over the call button. He wanted to tell her about the child, about the broken security panel, about the waffles. But he didn't call. Not yet. He needed to sit with this feeling. This strange, unfamiliar warmth. This glimmer of something that felt dangerously like hope. He sank into his leather chair and stared at the ceiling. He thought about Leo's smile. He thought about his sticky hands. He thought about the way a 2-year-old had, without even trying, undone the most tightly wound knot in his chest. A single tear rolled down his cheek. Then another. He didn't try to stop them. Somewhere, in the lobby below, Marcus Webb was holding his son and apologizing profusely for the trouble. And Leo Webb, with all the wisdom of a 2-3/4-year-old, was telling his father that the big man wasn't so bad after all. Marcus Webb did not sleep that night. He sat on the edge of the break room cot, watching Leo's chest rise and fall in the dim glow of the security monitors, and replayed the conversation with Julian Sterling on a loop in his head. The raise. The policy. The words, your son saved my life. It didn't compute. Men like Julian Sterling didn't have lives that needed saving. They had portfolios. They had assets. They had everything. But Marcus had seen the man's face. The way it crumbled. The raw, ugly sobs that had echoed off the marble. He had seen a man who was not a machine. He had seen a man who was drowning. At 7 a.m., his relief arrived. A younger guard named Derek, fresh out of a security training program, who smelled like energy drinks and had a nervous habit of tapping his foot. Marcus briefed him on the night's events. He left out the part about the CEO crying in the lobby. That felt like a secret he wasn't allowed to share. He carried Leo out to his car, a beat-up sedan with a dent in the passenger door, and strapped him into the car seat. Leo stirred, his eyes fluttering open. Papa, where's the big man? At home, buddy. Or at work? I'm not sure. Leo nodded sleepily. He's nice. He has sad eyes. Marcus didn't respond. He got into the driver's seat and started the engine. The car coughed and sputtered before catching. He needed an oil change. He needed new tires. He needed a lot of things that the raise from Julian Sterling might finally cover. He drove to the hospital to pick up his wife, Elena. She was a night shift nurse in the pediatric ward. She had been doing it for 11 years. Her back hurt. Her feet hurt. But she never complained. As she came out of the sliding doors with her bag slung over her shoulder and a tired smile on her face. She got into the car and leaned over to kiss Marcus on the cheek. Then she turned and kissed Leo's forehead. Hey, my sunshine. Did you have an adventure? Leo nodded enthusiastically. I fixed the BP box. And I met a big man. He cried. Elena's smile froze. She looked at Marcus with a question in her eyes. Marcus shrugged. I'll explain at home. The drive was quiet. Leo fell back asleep, his head lolling against the car seat. Elena stared out the window, her fingers tapping against her thigh. Marcus knew that tapping. It meant she was processing. It meant she had questions. It meant she was worried when they got to the apartment, a cramped two-bedroom in a building that had seen better decades. Marcus carried Leo to his room and tucked him into bed. Then he went to the kitchen, where Elena was already boiling water for tea. Okay, she said. Spill. Marcus told her everything. The canceled babysitter, the decision to bring Leo to work, the nap that had turned into a deep sleep, and then Julian Sterling, the sobbing, the confession, the offer of a raise. The words about Leo saving his life. Elena listened without interrupting. She was good at that. It was one of the reasons he had married her. When he finished, she set her mug down and looked at him. He said he thought about driving off a bridge. Marcus nodded. He was in a bad place, Elena. I've never seen anyone look like that. He was completely broken. Elena was quiet for a moment. Then she said, You know, I see people like that every day. In the hospital. Parents who are losing their children. Patients who are dying. People who have given up. Sometimes, all they need is one moment of kindness. Just one. I know. But Marcus, she said, her voice shifting, you have to be careful. This man, this CEO, he isn't your friend. He's your boss. And bosses don't stay grateful forever. They move on. They forget. And when they forget, you're back to being just another guard. Marcus knew she was right. He had seen it happen before. A boss who promised a promotion. A manager who swore things would change. A shift in priorities, and then nothing. He had learned not to trust the promises of people who sat in high places. But he also remembered Julian's face. The way his hands had trembled. The way he had held Leo like the child was the only lifeline in a stormy sea. That wasn't the face of a man who was going to forget. I'm not going to get my hopes up, Marcus said. But I'm not going to turn down a raise either. We need the money. We've been barely scraping by. Elena reached across the table and took his hand. I know, and I'm proud of you. You handled that situation better than anyone could have. You kept your cool. You let him talk. You didn't judge him. That took strength. Marcus squeezed her hand. I just did what I thought was right. That's all. Later that evening, after Elena had gone to sleep and Leo was tucked in with his stuffed dinosaur, Marcus sat on the couch and stared at his phone. He had texted the official HR line to confirm the raise. No response yet. He had checked his work email. Nothing. He told himself it didn't matter. The night had been a fluke. A moment of emotional weakness from a man under immense pressure. It wasn't real. But he couldn't stop thinking about Julian's words. Your son saved my life. He had never heard a rich man admit to needing help. He had never heard a powerful man confess to being weak. It was unsettling. It was human. And it lingered in his mind like a melody he couldn't quite place. He fell asleep on the couch with his phone in his hand and a knot of anxiety in his chest. The next morning, Leo woke him at 6:30 by jumping on his stomach. Papa, Papa, wake up. There's a car outside. Marcus groaned and rubbed his eyes. What car, buddy? A big one. A black one. It's shiny. Marcus sat up. He looked out the window. There, parked across the street, was a black SUV. The same black SUV that had pulled into the garage at Lux Horizon Tower 2 nights ago. His heart dropped into his stomach. He scrambled to his feet. He ran to the door, still in his pajama pants and t-shirt, and opened it. Julian Sterling was standing in the hallway. He was wearing a suit. A different suit, gray and perfectly tailored. His hair was neat. His face was clean-shaven. He looked like a CEO again. But his eyes were different. They were softer, more vulnerable. Mr. Sterling, Marcus said, his voice cracking. What are you doing here? Julian shifted his weight. He looked uncomfortable. Out of place in the narrow hallway with its peeling wallpaper and flickering light. I came to apologize, Julian said. I wanted to do it in person. I didn't want to send an email or a memo. That felt wrong. Marcus blinked. Apologize for what? Julian took a breath. For everything. For how I've treated my employees. For the culture I've created. For being absent. For being cold. I looked at my company's employee satisfaction survey this morning. It's been sitting on my desk for months. I never read it. But I read it today, and I saw what people really think of me. They call me the Ice King. They say I have no heart. They say I'm a robot. Marcus didn't know what to say. He had seen the survey. He had filled it out himself. He had been brutally honest. He had written words like inhumane and unapproachable and doesn't care about anyone. And now the CEO was standing in his hallway, apologizing for it. You didn't have to come here, Marcus said. You could have just called. No, Julian said firmly. I couldn't. Your son saw me at my worst. You saw me at my worst. And you didn't turn away. You didn't treat me like a monster. You treated me like a person. That meant everything. Marcus felt his chest tighten. Mr. Sterling, I was just doing my job. Julian shook his head. No, you were doing something more. You were being human. And I realized that I've forgotten how to do that. I've been so focused on building this company that I lost sight of what matters. People, connections, real relationships. He reached into his pocket and pulled out an envelope. He held it out to Marcus. This is a check. It's for the back pay you're owed. There have been errors in the payroll system. HR is fixing it. But I wanted you to have this now. It covers the last 2 years. Marcus stared at the envelope. His hand trembled as he took it. He opened it. The number on the check made his eyes water. It was more than he made in a year. Mr. Sterling, I can't accept this. You can, and you will. It's not a gift. It's what you're owed. And there's more. I'm restructuring the benefits package. Healthcare, vacation time, maternity, and paternity leave. It's all going to change. Because I realize that my employees aren't just workers. They're people. They have families. They have lives. And I've been treating them like cogs in a machine. Marcus swallowed hard. I don't know what to say. Julian smiled. It was a hesitant smile, like he was practicing. You don't have to say anything. I just wanted you to know that what happened the other night changed me. I'm not going to forget it. I'm not going to forget Leo. He fixed something in me that I didn't even know was broken. Leo appeared in the doorway, rubbing his eyes. Papa, who is it? Julian knelt down. Hey, Leo. Do you remember me? Leo's face lit up. The big man, with the sad eyes. Julian laughed. It was a warm, genuine laugh. Yes, that's me. I came to say thank you. For fixing the BP box. For sharing your binky. For being kind. Leo nodded seriously. You're welcome. Do you want to come and we have waffles? Julian looked at Marcus. Marcus hesitated. Then he opened the door wider. Come in, Mr. Sterling. I'll make you a waffle. The apartment was small. The couch had a permanent sag in the middle. The coffee table was covered in Leo's toys and a stack of unpaid bills. But Julian didn't seem to notice. He sat on the floor with Leo, playing with a set of plastic dinosaurs, while Marcus stood at the stove and made waffles. Elena came out of the bedroom, still in her robe. She stopped when she saw Julian. She looked at Marcus. Her eyes asked a question. Marcus shrugged. She mouthed, I'll explain later. Mrs. Webb, Julian said, getting to his feet. I'm Julian Sterling. I run the company where your husband works. I came to thank him and your son. They helped me during a very dark moment. Elena took his hand. Her grip was firm. My husband told me what happened. I'm glad you're okay. Julian nodded. I'm going to be. I think. I've got a long way to go. But I'm trying. They ate waffles. Julian sat at the small kitchen table with the rest of them, his expensive suit looking out of place against the chipped formica. He asked about Leo's favorite dinosaur. He asked about Elena's work at the hospital. He asked about Marcus's background in construction. He listened. He actually listened. And when he left, he shook Marcus's hand and looked him in the eye. Marcus, I'm going to do better. I promise. And I'm going to start by being a better boss. A better person. I don't know how to do it yet, but I'm going to learn. Marcus watched him walk down the hallway. He watched him get into the black SUV and drive away. Then he closed the door and leaned against it. Elena put her hand on his arm. Marcus, what just happened? I don't know, he said. But I think, for the first time in a long time, something good is happening. He thought about Julian's face. The way his eyes had lit up when Leo showed him his dinosaur collection. The way he had laughed when Leo made a joke about a T-Rex with short arms. The way he had asked about Elena's patience like he genuinely cared. It was strange. It was unexpected. But it felt real. And for the first time in years, Marcus allowed himself to believe that maybe, just maybe, the world was a little bit kinder than he had thought. Leo tugged on his sleeve. Papa, the big man is nice. Can he come back tomorrow? Marcus looked at his son. He ruffled his hair. I don't know, buddy. But I hope so. I really hope so. That night, Julian Sterling sat alone in his penthouse. He had the survey results spread out across his coffee table. He was reading every comment, every complaint, every plea for change. His employees were hurting. They were tired. They were scared. And it was his fault. He pulled out his phone and called his head of HR. "I want a meeting," he said, "with every department head. Tomorrow morning. And I want to start talking about how we can make this company better. For everyone." The HR director was silent for a moment. Then she said, "Sir, are you feeling okay?" Julian laughed. It was a real laugh. "I'm feeling better than I have in years. I'm feeling like I finally understand what matters." He hung up. He looked out the window at the city skyline. He thought about Leo and Marcus and Elena. He thought about waffles and plastic dinosaurs and a broken security panel. He thought about the bridge he had almost driven off. And he whispered to himself, "I'm going to be okay. I'm going to be okay." For the first time, he believed it. "Why do you have a picture of a security guard's kid on your desk?" Julian looked up from his laptop. His head of operations, a sharp-faced woman named Patricia, was standing in his doorway with a tablet clutched to her chest. Her eyes were fixed on the small framed photo sitting next to his monitor. It was the one Marcus had given him 2 weeks ago, a grainy print of Leo in his dinosaur pajamas, grinning at the camera like he had just discovered the meaning of life. Julian leaned back in his chair. "That's Leo. He's the son of one of my security guards." Patricia's eyebrows shot up. "You have a picture of a security guard's toddler on your desk. In the executive penthouse, where we host board meetings and foreign investors. It's a good picture. He's a good kid." Patricia walked into the office and set her tablet down on the conference table. Her heels clicked against the marble floor. She was a woman who had built her career on efficiency and bluntness, and she wasn't afraid to use either. "Julian, I've known you for 15 years. You have never had a personal item on your desk. Not a single one. You used to tell me that clutter was a sign of a weak mind. Now you've got a kid's photo, a half-eaten granola bar, and a stack of children's books in your office." "Children's books, Julian. What is happening to you?" Julian picked up the granola bar and took a bite. He had started keeping them in his desk drawer after Leo told him that he needed to eat more snacks or he would get cranky. It was silly. It was absurd. But it made him smile. "Patricia, you're my oldest friend at this company. You're also my most honest critic. So I'm going to be honest with you. I've changed. Something happened to me a few weeks ago, and I'm trying to be a different person." Patricia crossed her arms. "I heard about the security guard. I heard about the toddler. I heard you gave him a raise. I heard you changed the whole family policy. People are talking, Julian. They're calling it the Julian Sterling Redemption Tour. They think you're having a breakdown." Julian laughed. It was a genuine laugh, not bitter or forced. "Let them talk. I don't care what they think. That's a first." He stood up and walked to the floor-to-ceiling window. His reflection stared back at him. It was the same face, same hair, same suit. But something behind the eyes was different. Softer. More present. "Patricia, do you know what it's like to realize you've been wrong about everything your whole life? Everything you thought was important. Every decision you made. Every relationship you destroyed. It's like waking up from a dream and realizing you've been sleepwalking for 42 years. Patricia uncrossed her arms. Her expression shifted. It was still guarded, but there was a hint of concern underneath. "Are you okay?" "Julian, really, I'm getting there. I'm still figuring it out. But I know one thing. I'm not going back to who I was. I can't. Because I've seen what I've been missing. I've seen what real connection looks like. And I want it. I want it so badly it hurts." He turned from the window. "I'm going to start visiting the floors. All of them. I'm going to talk to the employees. Not in a town hall, not through a screen. I'm going to walk through the cubicles and the break rooms and the mail rooms, and I'm going to shake their hands and ask them how they're doing. I'm going to learn their names." Patricia stared at him. "You're serious?" "I'm completely serious. I have an hour before my next meeting. I'm starting with the mailroom. You can come with me if you want, but you don't have to." Patricia picked up her tablet. "I'm coming. If only because I want to see the look on people's faces when you walk in." The mailroom was in the basement. It smelled like cardboard and ink and the faint tang of industrial cleaner. A dozen employees sorted packages, processed envelopes, and scanned barcodes. They had never seen the CEO. Not once. They were the invisible backbone of the company, the people who kept the wheels turning without any recognition. Julian walked in and stopped. A man in a navy apron was stacking boxes. He turned, his eyes widening when he saw the suit. "Sir, can I help you?" the man asked. "Just looking around," Julian said. "Getting to know the place." He walked over to the man and extended his hand. I'm Julian Sterling. What's your name? The man stared at the hand like it was a live grenade. Then he took it. Darius. Darius Martin. I've been here 12 years. 12 years, Julian repeated. That's a long time. How do you like it? Darius glanced at Patricia, who was standing in the doorway with an unreadable expression. It's a good job, sir. Steady pay. Good benefits. Julian nodded. Anything we can improve, anything that would make your life easier, Darius blinked. You're asking me what would make my life easier. I am. Darius looked around the room. The other employees had stopped working. They were all watching, frozen in place, waiting to see what would happen next. Well, sir, Darius said slowly. The break room microwave has been broken for 3 months. We've put in requests, but nothing's happened. And the air conditioning in here hasn't worked since last summer. It gets pretty hot. Julian turned to Patricia. Get the break room microwave fixed by tomorrow. And have someone look at the air conditioning. Get a portable unit if you have to. Patricia's jaw tightened, but she nodded. I'll handle it. Julian turned back to Darius. Anything else, anything at all? Darius looked around again. A woman near the back raised her hand hesitantly. Yes, ma'am, Julian said. What's your name? Linda Vasquez. I've been here 4 years. It's just, we've never met you before, sir. We didn't know you cared. Julian felt the words like a physical blow. He had been so focused on the top of the pyramid, on the board members and the executives and the quarterly earnings, that he had forgotten the foundation. The people who kept the building standing. I'm sorry, he said. I'm sorry for that. I should have been here. I should have known your names. I should have cared. But I'm here now, and I'm going to keep coming. Every week. I'm going to learn every name on every floor. I promise. The silence in the room was thick. Then Linda Vasquez smiled. I think that's wonderful, Mr. Sterling. Julian smiled back. Call me Julian. Please. He spent the next 45 minutes in the mailroom. He learned about Darius's daughter who was applying to college. He learned about Linda's aging mother who she cared for at night. He learned about a part-time worker named Jamal who was saving up for a car so he could stop taking the bus. That he listened. He didn't interrupt. He didn't check his phone. He just listened. When he left, Patricia was quiet for a long time. They rode the elevator up in silence. Finally, she spoke. You've changed, she said. I know. I'm not sure it's a bad thing. I'm not sure it's a good thing. I don't know what to think. Julian nodded. That's okay. I don't know what to think either. But I know it feels right. For the first time in my life, I'm doing something that feels right. The elevator doors opened on the executive floor. Julian stepped out. His next meeting was with the sales team, a group he had always found tedious and sycophantic. But today, he was looking forward to it. Today, he was going to ask them what they needed. What they needed from him. What they needed to feel valued. He walked into the conference room and saw the sales director, a slick-haired man named Bennett, ready with a PowerPoint presentation about quarterly targets. Good morning, everyone, Julian said. He sat down at the head of the table. I'm going to do something different today. We're not going to look at the numbers. Not yet. I want to hear from you. I want to know what's working and what's not. I want to know how I can help you. So go ahead. Tell me. Bennett's mouth opened and closed. He looked at Patricia, who shrugged. The sales team exchanged nervous glances. Mr. Sterling, Bennett said, we usually do projections, and Julian. Call me Julian. And I know what we usually do. But today, we're going to try something new. I'm not going to be a boss today. I'm going to be a human. So let's start. Who wants to go first? A young woman near the back raised her hand. She looked nervous, like she was about to speak in front of a firing squad. Mr. Sterling, Julian, there's been a lot of talk about layoffs in the next quarter. Is that true? Julian felt the heat rise to his face. Layoffs. The VP of Operations mentioned something at a meeting last week. We've all been worried. Some of us have families. We can't afford to lose our jobs. Julian looked at Patricia. Her face was pale. Patricia, is this true? Julian, it was just a discussion. No decisions were made. No decisions, Julian repeated. But you brought it up. You put fear into the hearts of my employees. You made them feel like they're disposable. Patricia's eyes flashed. That's not what I intended. I don't care what you intended. We're not doing layoffs. We're not even talking about layoffs. I don't care what the numbers say. I don't care about the quarterly projections. We're not going to treat our people like they're numbers on a spreadsheet. The sales team was silent. They were staring at him like he had grown a second head. But there was something else in their eyes, too. Something that looked a lot like hope. Julian looked around the table. I want you to know that you are valued. Every single one of you. You are not disposable. You are the reason this company exists. And I'm going to spend the rest of my career making sure you know that. The young woman who had spoken earlier was crying. She was trying to hide it, but Julian saw the tears on her cheeks. Thank you, she whispered. Julian nodded. He didn't know what else to say. He had spent 20 years building walls. Now he was trying to take them down. It was harder than he expected, but it felt right that the meeting ended. The sales team filed out, looking dazed but relieved. Patricia stayed behind. Julian, we need to talk, she said. About what? About your fiancé. She came to see me yesterday. She told me about the engagement ring. She told me about the breakup. She said you've been calling her. She said you've been apologizing. Julian sat back in his chair. His heart started to race. He had called Emily every night for the past 2 weeks. He had left voicemails, sent texts, even written a letter. She hadn't responded. He thought she might never respond. She came to see you, Julian asked. She did. She wanted to know if you were okay. She said she still loves you. But she's scared. She's scared of the old you. She's scared that this is just temporary. That you'll go back to being the cold, distant man she left. Julian felt his throat tighten. What did you tell her? I told her the truth. I told her you've changed. I told her I didn't know if it would last. But I told her that I've never seen you like this before. I told her she should talk to you. Julian stood up. I need to go. I need to see her. Julian, you have meetings. Cancel them. All of them. This is more important. He grabbed his jacket and walked out. He didn't look back. He had been a coward for too long. He had hidden behind his work, his wealth, his reputation. But he was done hiding. That he drove to Emily's apartment, his hands gripping the steering wheel. He parked outside and sat in his car for a moment, gathering his courage. He walked to the door and knocked as she opened it. She looked the same. Beautiful. Wary. Her arms were crossed over her chest. Julian, she said. What are you doing here? He took a breath. I'm here to tell you that I love you. I'm here to tell you that I'm sorry. I'm here to tell you that I'm going to spend the rest of my life trying to be the man you deserve. Emily stared at him. Her lip trembled. Julian, you can't just... I can. I am. I'm not asking you to take me back. I'm just asking you to let me show you that I can change. That I have changed. That I'm not the man I used to be. She was crying now. She didn't try to hide it. I'm scared, she said. I'm scared too. But I'm more scared of losing you than I am of anything else. Please, give me a chance. Just one chance. That's all I need. Emily stepped forward. She put her arms around him and held him tight. Okay, she whispered. One chance. Julian held her like she was the only thing in the world that mattered. And in that moment, she was... Papa, why is the big man's car in front of our building again? Marcus looked up from the sink, where he was rinsing Leo's cereal bowl. He wiped his hands on a dish towel and walked to the window. Sure enough, the black SUV was parked across the street. This time, Julian Sterling was standing next to it, talking on his phone, his free hand gesturing in the air like he was negotiating a deal. He's probably just passing through, buddy. Leo shook his head with the certainty of a child who had already figured out the world. Nope. He's coming to see us. He brought waffles last time. Maybe he brought waffles again. Marcus sighed. The past few weeks had been a whirlwind. The raise had come through, more than he had expected. The family policy had been officially changed, and HR had sent him a personalized letter thanking him for his valuable feedback. He had even received an invitation to a company-wide meeting where Julian was going to address the entire staff. It was surreal. The man who had once been a distant, terrifying figure had become a regular presence in Marcus's life. Julian had visited the apartment 3 times. He had brought toys for Leo. He had asked about Elena's work. He had even helped Marcus fix a leaky faucet, despite the fact that his suit cost more than Marcus's entire kitchen renovation. And yet, Marcus couldn't shake the feeling that it was all too good to be true. He had been burned before. He had trusted people who promised the world and delivered nothing. He had learned to keep his guard up, to expect disappointment, to brace for the inevitable fall. The doorbell rang. Leo sprinted to the door before Marcus could stop him. Big man, Leo shouted, throwing the door open. You came. Did you bring waffles? Julian laughed. It was a warm, easy sound. Not this time, buddy. But I brought something else. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small plastic dinosaur. It was a T-Rex with bright orange stripes. I saw this in a shop and thought of you. Leo grabbed it like it was made of gold. It's a T-Rex. Papa, look. He has orange stripes. Marcus walked to the door. Mr. Sterling, you don't have to keep bringing him gifts. He's going to get spoiled. Julian's smile faded slightly. I know. I like making him happy. It makes me happy too. Marcus studied him for a moment. Julian had changed. His posture was different, less rigid. His eyes were warmer. But there was still a shadow there, a hint of the broken man Marcus had seen in the lobby that night. Come in, Marcus said. I'll make coffee. They sat in the living room while Leo played on the floor with his new dinosaur. Julian looked around the apartment, taking in the modest furnishings, the toys scattered across the rug, the family photos on the wall. Marcus, can I ask you something personal? Marcus tensed. Sure. Your wife. Elena. How did you two meet? Marcus relaxed. He liked talking about Elena. It was one of the few things that made him feel like a real person, not just a security guard or a former construction worker. We met at a hospital. She was a nurse. I was there with my mom. She was going through chemo. Elena was the one who brought her blankets, who made her laugh, who sat with her when I had to step out. She was so kind, so gentle. I fell in love with her the moment I saw her. Julian nodded. That's beautiful. That's what I want. What you have. Marcus frowned. You had it. You had Emily. Julian winced. I ruined it. I pushed her away. I was so focused on work, on success, on proving myself, that I forgot to love her. I forgot to show her that she mattered. She told me I was a machine. She wasn't wrong. Marcus leaned forward. You're not a machine, Mr. Sterling. You're a man. And men can change. Julian looked at him. You really believe that? I have to believe it. I believe it for myself every day. I've made mistakes. I've failed. But I keep trying. That's all any of us can do. Julian was quiet for a moment. Then he said, Emily agreed to see me. We had dinner last night. It was good. She laughed. She smiled. She told me she could see the change in me. But she also said she's still scared. She's scared I'll go back to being the old me. And honestly, I'm scared too. Marcus nodded. Change is scary. But it's also the only way forward. You just have to keep showing up. Every day. Even when it's hard. Even when you want to give up. Julian looked at Leo, who was now making the dinosaur roar and stomp across the rug. He doesn't know how much he's done for me. He just thinks I'm a big man with sad eyes. He doesn't know that he saved my life. Maybe that's the point, Marcus said. Maybe it's better that way. He did it because it was natural, because it was kind. Not because he wanted anything in return. Julian smiled. You're a wise man, Marcus. I'm just a guy trying to do right by his family. They sat in comfortable silence for a while. Then Julian's phone buzzed. He glanced at it and his face paled. Everything okay? Marcus asked. It's Patricia. She says there's been an incident at the office. I need to go. He stood up quickly. Marcus followed him to the door. What kind of incident? Julian shook his head. I don't know. She just said I needed to come in. I'll call you later. He hurried out of the apartment. Marcus watched him drive away, a knot of anxiety forming in his chest. He had a bad feeling. The kind of feeling he got before something terrible happened. The call came 3 hours later. Marcus was at work, sitting at his desk in the lobby, when his phone rang. It was a blocked number. He answered. Hello, Marcus, it's Julian. His voice was strained. I need you to come to my office. I know you're on duty, but I've arranged for Derek to cover your shift. I need to talk to you. Marcus felt his stomach drop. What's going on? Just come up. Please. Marcus took the elevator to the executive floor. His heart was pounding. He had never been to Julian's office before. It was huge, with floor-to-ceiling windows and a massive desk that looked like it could double as a conference table. Julian was standing by the window, his back to the door. When Marcus walked in, he turned. His face was pale. His eyes were red. Marcus, I've done something terrible. Marcus stopped. What happened? Julian took a breath. I fired Patricia. I didn't want to. She forced my hand. She was trying to sabotage the new family policy. She was telling employees that it was going to be reversed, that it was just a publicity stunt. She was spreading rumors that I was having a mental breakdown. Marcus blinked. Patricia, your oldest friend, she was my friend. But she couldn't accept the change. She saw it as a threat to her power. She thought I was losing my mind. And when I confronted her, she threatened to go to the board. She threatened to have me removed. So I fired her. Marcus sat down in the nearest chair. His legs felt weak. That's huge, Julian. The board is going to push back. They're going to question your judgment. Julian nodded. I know. And that's not the worst part. The worst part is, she was right about some things. I have been erratic. I have been making decisions that don't align with the company's best interests. I've been focusing too much on my personal life, on fixing myself, that I've neglected my duties. I haven't been a good leader. Marcus shook his head. That's not true. You've been a better leader than you were before. You've been connecting with people. You've been showing compassion. That's not a weakness. That's strength. Julian laughed bitterly. Try telling that to the board. They're calling for a vote of no confidence. They want me out. They think I'm unstable. Marcus felt a surge of anger. It was unfair. It was unjust. Julian had been trying so hard. He had been making real, tangible changes. And now they wanted to punish him for it. Julian, listen to me. You can't let them do this. You can't let them win. You've worked too hard. You've come too far. Julian shook his head. I don't know if I can fight them, Marcus. I don't know if I have the strength. I used to be this force, this unstoppable machine. And now I feel like I'm falling apart. Marcus stood up. He walked over to Julian and put his hand on his shoulder. You're not falling apart. You're rebuilding. That's the hardest thing a person can do. But you're not alone. You have Emily. You have me. You have Leo. We're not going anywhere. Julian looked at him. His eyes were wet. Why do you care so much? I'm just your boss. I'm the man who didn't care about you for 3 years. Marcus shrugged. Because you changed. Because you showed me that you could be more than just a boss. Because my son saw something in you that I didn't see. And I trust my son. He's a good judge of character. Julian let out a shaky breath. Thank you, Marcus. I don't deserve you. I don't deserve any of this. Maybe not. But you're getting it anyway. So don't waste it. Fight, Julian. Fight for what you believe in. Fight for the changes you're trying to make. Don't let them take it away. Julian straightened his shoulders. He wiped his eyes. You're right. I'm not going to give up. I'm going to fight. I'm going to show them that I'm not unstable. I'm not broken. I'm finally becoming the man I was meant to be. Marcus nodded. That's the Julian Sterling I'm starting to know. Now go. Show them what you're made of. Julian smiled. It was a small smile, but it was real. Thank you, Marcus. For everything. Marcus walked to the door. He turned back. And Julian, call Emily. She needs to know what's happening. She needs to be part of this. Julian nodded. I will. I promise. Marcus left the office and took the elevator back down to the lobby. He felt lighter. He had done something good. He had helped someone. And for the first time in a long time, he felt like he was part of something bigger than himself. He sat down at his desk and looked at the photo of Leo on his desk. His son was grinning at him, his chubby cheeks full of life. You did good, buddy, Marcus whispered. You did real good. The next few days were a blur. Julian called an emergency board meeting. He presented his case. He showed them the employee satisfaction surveys. He showed them the changes he had made. He showed them the tangible, measurable results of his new approach. And he won. The board voted to keep him. They were skeptical. They were cautious. But they were willing to give him a chance. Julian called Marcus the night after the meeting. We did it, he said. His voice was exhausted but triumphant. They're giving me another chance. I have to prove myself. I have to show them that this isn't a phase. Marcus smiled. I knew you could do it. I couldn't have done it without you. Without Leo. You reminded me what mattered. You reminded me that I was human. I'll never forget that. Marcus felt a lump in his throat. You're welcome, Julian. Now go get some rest. You've earned it. Julian laughed. I'll try. Good night, Marcus. Good night, Julian. Marcus hung up. He looked at the ceiling and let out a long, slow breath. He had done something good. He had helped a man find his way back to himself. And in the process, he had found something too. A sense of purpose. A sense of hope. He looked at the photo of Leo again. His son. His sunshine. The little boy who had fixed a security panel and a broken man in the same night. You're a miracle, Leo, Marcus whispered. A beautiful, wonderful miracle. And in the quiet of the night, surrounded by the hum of the building and the flicker of the security monitors, Marcus Webb let himself believe that everything was going to be okay. Julian, there's something I need to tell you. Emily's voice was soft but steady. She sat across from him at the small cafe table, her hands wrapped around a coffee cup that had long gone cold. The afternoon sun slanted through the window, catching the edges of her engagement ring, the one she had put back on 3 weeks ago. Julian set down his own cup. The anxious hum that had become his constant companion over the past month started to rise in his chest. He had been waiting for the other shoe to drop. It always did. He had been bracing himself for Emily to say she had changed her mind, that she couldn't do this, that he was still too broken. Okay, he said carefully. You can tell me anything. I'm listening. Emily looked down at her hands. It's about Marcus and Leo. And the security panel. Julian blinked. What about them? Emily took a breath. I did some digging. I know that sounds terrible. I know I should have trusted you. But after everything that happened, I needed to understand. I needed to know if the changes you were making were real, or if they were just a reaction. A temporary thing. Julian felt the familiar sting of betrayal. But he pushed it down. He had earned her suspicion. He had given her every reason to doubt him. Okay, he said again. What did you find? The security panel that Leo fixed that night. It wasn't broken. It was never broken. I spoke to the building's maintenance supervisor. He told me the panel had been disconnected on purpose. There was a timer on the system, set to deactivate it at 11:30 p.m. and reactivate at 6 a.m. Someone had gone in and changed the settings. Julian's mind raced. Why would anyone do that? That doesn't make any sense. Emily leaned forward. Julian, think. You came to the office that night because you were devastated. You were at the lowest point in your life. And the one person who saved you was a toddler who just happened to be in the lobby with a disarmed security panel. A toddler whose father had access to that panel. Julian's blood went cold. You're not suggesting Marcus staged the whole thing. I'm not suggesting anything. I'm telling you what I found. The panel was tampered with. The timing is too convenient. I don't want to believe it either. Marcus seems like a good man. But Julian, you are the CEO of a billion-dollar company. You gave him a raise. You changed company policy because of him. You promoted him to head of security. And he just happens to have a child who can melt your heart with a few words. Julian sat back in his chair. His mind was a whirlwind of images. Marcus's tired eyes. Leo's chubby cheeks. The broken security panel. The tears he had shed in the lobby. It had all felt so real. So raw. So genuine. But Emily was right. It was too convenient. I need to talk to him, Julian said. His voice was flat. I need to hear it from him. Emily reached across the table and took his hand. I'm not trying to hurt you. I'm trying to protect you. I love you, Julian. And I can't watch someone use you like this. Julian pulled his hand away. He needed to think. He needed to process. The world he had been rebuilding, slowly and painstakingly, was suddenly crumbling around him. He had trusted Marcus. He had trusted him with his deepest vulnerabilities, with his darkest moments. And now that trust was being called into question. I'll handle it, he said. I'll talk to him tonight. He stood up. He didn't kiss Emily. He didn't say goodbye. He just walked out of the cafe and into the cold afternoon air. The drive to the office was a blur. Julian's mind churned with questions, each one more painful than the last. How had he been so blind? How had he let himself be manipulated so easily? He had spent his entire life building walls, and now the one person he had let through the gates might have been playing him from the start. He walked into the lobby. Marcus was at the security desk, as always. He looked up and smiled when he saw Julian. Hey, boss. You're here early. Everything okay? Julian didn't smile back. Can we talk privately? Marcus's smile faltered. He stood up. Sure. My office. They walked to the small security office behind the main desk. Marcus closed the door. Julian stood in the center of the room, his arms crossed, his face hard. Marcus, I need to ask you something. And I need you to be honest with me. No matter what. Marcus's face went pale. Okay. What is it? The night Leo fixed the security panel. The night I broke down in the lobby. That panel was tampered with. It was disconnected on purpose. Someone set a timer to deactivate it at 11:30 p.m. And it was reactivated at 6 a.m., the same time the next shift came in. Marcus stared at him. His mouth opened. Closed. Opened again. Julian, I don't understand. What are you saying? I'm saying that the timing was too perfect. I'm saying that you had access to that panel. I'm saying that your son just happened to be in the lobby at the exact moment I walked in. And I'm asking you, straight out, if you staged this whole thing. Marcus's face contorted. It was a mixture of shock and hurt, and something that looked terrifyingly like betrayal. You think I planned this? You think I used my 2-year-old son to manipulate you? Julian felt a crack in his resolve. But he pressed on. I don't know what to think. Emily found evidence. The panel was tampered with. I have to ask. Marcus stepped back. He leaned against the wall. His hands were shaking. Julian, I swear on my son's life. I swear on everything I am. I did not tamper with that panel. I had nothing to do with it. I don't know who did it. But it wasn't me. Julian studied his face. The tears that were starting to form in Marcus's eyes. The tremor in his voice. It looked real. It felt real. But Julian had been fooled before. He had been fooled by his own heart, by his own desperate need to believe in something good. Marcus, I want to believe you. I really do. But I need proof. I need you to help me figure out who did this. Because if it wasn't you, then someone else is pulling the strings. And I need to know who. Marcus nodded. His jaw was tight. I'll help you. I'll do whatever it takes. But Julian, I need you to know something. I didn't do this. Leo didn't do this. What happened that night was real. It was genuine. And if you can't see that, then I don't know what to say. Julian felt the weight of those words. He wanted to believe. He wanted to trust. But the fear, the old familiar fear, was creeping back. The fear of being vulnerable. The fear of being hurt. The fear of being used. Help me find the truth, Julian said. That's all I'm asking. Marcus nodded. I'll start looking. I'll check the logs. I'll talk to the maintenance team. I'll find out who tampered with that panel. Julian walked to the door. He paused. Marcus, I'm sorry. I'm sorry I had to ask. But I had to know. Marcus looked at him. His eyes were sad. I understand. You've been hurt before. You're protecting yourself. I get it. But Julian, I'm not your enemy. I never was. Julian left the office. He walked back through the lobby, past the marble floors and the abstract art and the potted plants. He felt hollow. He felt like the progress he had made, the fragile trust he had built, was slipping through his fingers. He got into the elevator and pressed the button for the penthouse. He needed to be alone. He needed to think that the next few days were agonizing. Marcus worked tirelessly, poring over security logs and maintenance records. He interviewed the night shift staff. He checked the security panel's internal system for any unauthorized access. And he found something that it wasn't Marcus. It wasn't any of the security staff. It was a maintenance worker named Greg, a quiet man who had been with the company for 8 years. Greg had accessed the panel's system the night before Julian's breakdown. He had set the timer. He had disconnected the panel. Marcus brought the evidence to Julian. He laid it out on the conference room table. Printouts. Digital logs. A confession Greg had signed after Marcus confronted him. Julian stared at the papers. Why would Greg do this? I don't even know him. Marcus sat down across from him. He was working for Patricia. She paid him to set it up. She knew you were struggling. She knew you were at a breaking point. She wanted to push you over the edge. She wanted to force you out of the company. She thought that if she could make you look unstable, the board would remove you. Julian felt the anger rise in his chest. It was hot and sharp. Patricia, his oldest friend, the woman who had stood by him for 15 years. She had tried to destroy him. She had used a child to do it. She had used Leo's innocence as a weapon. I can't believe this, Julian whispered. She knew about my breakdown. She knew I was vulnerable. And she used it. She used Leo. Marcus nodded. She was watching. She knew you would see him, that you would connect with him. She knew it would break you. She knew you would have a breakdown in the lobby. She was counting on it. Julian looked at Marcus. But she was wrong. I didn't break. I found something. I found strength. I found Leo. I found you. Marcus smiled. It was a tired smile, but it was genuine. Yeah, she didn't count on that. She didn't count on you being stronger than she thought. She didn't count on you being human. Julian stood up. He walked to the window and looked out at the city. The weight on his chest was lifting. The darkness that had been threatening to consume him was receding. Marcus, I owe you an apology. I doubted you. I questioned your integrity. And I was wrong. You were telling the truth the whole time. Marcus stood up and walked to stand beside him. You don't owe me anything. You were protecting yourself. I get it. I would have done the same thing. Julian turned to him. You're a better man than me, Marcus Webb. You never gave up on me, even when I didn't deserve it. Marcus shrugged. I saw something in you. My son saw something in you. We don't give up on people we believe in. Julian felt the tears start to form. He didn't try to stop them. I need to tell you something. I'm going to the board tomorrow. I'm going to present the evidence against Patricia. I'm going to make sure she never works in this industry again. Marcus nodded. That's the right move. But before I do that, I need to ask you something. I need you to be my witness. I need you to stand with me in that room and tell them what you saw. What you know. I need you to help me fight this. Marcus met his eyes. I will. I'll stand with you. I'll tell them everything. Julian put his hand on Marcus's shoulder. Thank you. I don't know how I'll ever repay you. Marcus smiled. You already have. You gave me a chance. You believed in me. That's all I ever needed. The next day, they walked into the boardroom together. Julian presented the evidence. Marcus spoke with quiet conviction. The board listened. They voted. Patricia was terminated. Greg was fired. The company began the long process of healing. And Julian Sterling, for the first time in his life, felt like he was exactly where he was supposed to be. You need to let me pay for it. Marcus looked up from the pile of bills spread across his kitchen table. The numbers blurred in front of his eyes. Rent, utilities, Leo's preschool tuition, the car payment that was 3 months behind, Elena's student loans. It was a mountain, and he was standing at the bottom with a child's shovel. Julian, I can't accept that. It's too much. Julian didn't move from the doorway. He had shown up unannounced, as he often did these days. But this time his face carried a gravity that Marcus hadn't seen since the night in the lobby. Marcus, listen to me. I know your wife lost her job at the hospital. I know the layoffs hit her department. I know you've been covering everything on your salary, even with the raise I gave you. I know because I checked. I know because I care. Marcus felt his cheeks burn. He hated this. He hated being seen as a charity case. He had worked his whole life, busted his back, sacrificed everything, and still he couldn't keep his family afloat. The pride that had once been his armor had become a cage. Julian, I appreciate it. I really do. But I can't take your money. It wouldn't be right. Julian walked into the kitchen and pulled out a chair. He sat down across from Marcus, his expensive suit looking absurdly out of place in the cramped space. Let me tell you a story, Julian said. When I was 25, I had nothing. I slept on a friend's couch. I ate ramen noodles for 3 months straight. I was so broke I couldn't afford a bus pass. I walked 6 miles to my first job interview because I couldn't pay for the fare. Marcus blinked. He had never heard Julian talk like this. The man had always seemed like he was born with a silver spoon in his mouth, a golden ticket in his pocket. What happened? Marcus asked. I got a break. A man named Harold Sterling, no relation, gave me a chance. He lent me money to start my first company. He believed in me when no one else did. He told me that the only way to succeed was to lift others up along the way. I forgot that lesson. For 20 years, I forgot it. But I remember it now. Julian reached into his pocket and pulled out a check. He slid it across the table. Marcus looked at the number. His breath caught in his throat. It was enough to cover their bills for a year. Maybe 2. Julian, it's a loan, not a gift. You'll pay me back when you can. Interest-free. No deadline. Just a hand to help you get back on your feet. That's what Harold did for me. That's what I'm doing for you. Marcus stared at the check. His eyes burned. He blinked rapidly, trying to keep the tears at bay. I don't know what to say. Say yes. Let me help. Let me be the person Harold was to me. Marcus took a shaky breath. He reached out and took the check. His hand was trembling. Yes. Yes, I'll accept it. Thank you, Julian. I don't know how I'll ever repay you. Julian smiled. You already have. You showed me what it means to be human. That's worth more than any check I could write. Marcus folded the check and tucked it into his pocket. The weight of it felt like a lifeline. He had been drowning, and Julian had thrown him a rope. Can I tell you something? Marcus said. The night you came to the office, the night you broke down in the lobby, I thought you were just another rich guy having a midlife crisis. I thought you would forget about us the next day. I thought it was all just a moment. Julian leaned back. And now I know I was wrong. You've shown up. Every day, you've been a friend. A real friend. I've never had a friend like you. Julian's face softened. Neither have I, Marcus. Neither have I. They sat in silence for a moment. Then Leo ran into the kitchen, his new dinosaur in hand. Big man. You came. Did you bring waffles? Julian laughed. It was a full, genuine laugh. No waffles today, buddy. But I brought something else. He pulled a small box from his pocket. I need you to help me with a special mission. Leo's eyes went wide. A mission like a spy mission, exactly like a spy mission. I need you to help me pick out a ring. For Emily. Marcus's eyebrows shot up. You're proposing? Julian nodded. I've been thinking about it for a while. I almost lost her once. I'm not going to let that happen again. I want to do it right. I want to make sure she knows that she's the most important thing in my life. Leo clapped his hands. I can help. I'm good at picking rings. I picked Papa's watch one time. Marcus shook his head, laughing. You picked a plastic dinosaur watch, buddy. That's not quite the same. Leo looked offended. It was a good watch. It had a green dinosaur on it. Julian smiled. I trust your judgment, Leo. You haven't steered me wrong yet. The next weekend, they went to the jewelry district. Marcus had never been to a place like this. The stores glittered with diamonds and gold. The salespeople wore suits that cost more than his car, and the security guards looked like they could snap him in half with one hand. Leo was in heaven. He pressed his nose against every display case, pointing at rings and shouting about how shiny they were. Big man. This one. It's sparkly. Julian looked at the ring Leo was pointing at. It was a princess-cut diamond with a platinum band. Simple. Elegant. It was perfect. Leo, you have excellent taste, Julian said. That's the one. The saleswoman, a polished woman named Margaret, smiled professionally. An excellent choice, sir. Would you like to see it up close? Julian nodded. Margaret brought out the ring and placed it on a velvet pad. Leo stared at it with wide eyes. Can I touch it? Leo asked. Very gently, Julian said. It's very delicate. Leo reached out and touched the ring with one tiny finger. His face was a mask of concentration. It's pretty, big man. Emily will like it. She'll cry. Julian laughed. She'll cry. Leo nodded seriously. That's what grown-ups do when they're happy. They cry. Like you did that night. Julian's smile faded. He looked at Leo. The boy was so innocent. He had no idea how much he had changed Julian's life. He had no idea that the tears Julian shed that night had been the beginning of a transformation. Leo, Julian said softly, I want you to know something. You are the reason I'm doing this. You are the reason I'm not scared anymore. You showed me that it's okay to be vulnerable, that it's okay to need people. I'll never forget that. Leo tilted his head. I'm just a kid, big man. You're not just a kid. You're the most important kid in the world. Marcus watched the exchange from the corner of his eye. His heart swelled. He had been so afraid that Julian would disappear, that the connection would fade. But here they were, months later, still together. Still family. After they bought the ring, they went to a diner for lunch. Leo ordered a mountain of pancakes, which he demolished with the ferocity of a tiny hurricane. Julian watched him with a soft smile on his face. Marcus, Julian said. Can I ask you something personal? Marcus looked up from his burger. Of course. What was it like when Leo was born? I mean, really like. The whole experience. Marcus wiped his mouth with a napkin. He thought about it. The sleepless nights. The fear. The overwhelming, terrifying love. It was the hardest thing I've ever done, he said. Elena had a difficult labor. She was in the hospital for 3 days. I was terrified. I was scared I would lose her. I was scared I would lose Leo. But then he was born, and everything changed. I looked at him, this tiny, wrinkled thing, and I knew that my life would never be the same. He was the most beautiful thing I had ever seen. Julian nodded. I want that. I want a family. I want to be a father. I want to feel that love. Marcus smiled. You will. You're ready for it. You've changed, Julian. You're not the man you used to be. I'm trying, Julian said. I'm still trying. Some days it feels like I'm climbing a mountain in the dark. But then I see Leo, and I remember why I'm doing this. Leo looked up from his pancakes, his face covered in syrup. Big man, are you coming to my birthday party? It's next week. There's going to be cake and bouncy houses and a clown. Julian's face lit up. I wouldn't miss it for the world, buddy. Marcus felt a warmth spread through his chest. He had been so worried, so afraid, for so long. But now, sitting in a diner with his son and his friend, he felt something he hadn't felt in years. Peace. The birthday party was held at a local park. Julian arrived with a massive present, a remote-controlled dinosaur that Leo had been eyeing for months. He spent the afternoon playing with the kids, getting his expensive shoes muddy, and letting Leo drag him through the bouncy house that Emily came to. She and Elena sat on a picnic blanket, watching the chaos unfold. They had become friends over the past few weeks, bonding over their shared love for two men who were learning how to be bettered. Your husband is amazing, Emily said. He's been such a good influence on Julian. I don't think I've ever seen him this happy. Elena smiled. Marcus is a good man. He's always been a good man. He just needed someone to believe in him. I understand, Emily said. Julian needed that too. He needed someone to see the good in him. He found that in Marcus and Leo. Elena looked at her. Emily, can I ask you something? Are you scared about getting married again, about giving Julian another chance? Emily was quiet for a moment. Then she said, yes. I'm terrified, but I'm more scared of losing him. He's not perfect. Neither am I. But he's trying. And that means everything. Elena reached over and squeezed her hand. You're making the right choice. Trust me. I know. The party wound down as the sun started to set. Leo fell asleep on Marcus's shoulder, exhausted from a day of running and screaming and eating too much cake. Julian and Emily walked them to their car. Thank you for coming, Marcus said. It meant the world to Leo. It meant the world to me, Julian said. I've never had a birthday party like that. I've never been part of something so real. Emily leaned against him. We should do this more often. Family gatherings. Dinners. Just being together. Julian nodded. I'd like that. I'd really like that. They said their goodbyes and drove home. Marcus looked in the rearview mirror at his sleeping son. He thought about the check in his pocket. He thought about Julian's transformation. He thought about the future. For the first time in years, it felt bright. He pulled into the parking lot of his apartment building and turned off the engine. Elena leaned over and kissed his cheek. We're going to be okay, she said. Marcus nodded. I know. I finally believe it. He carried Leo up the stairs and tucked him into bed. He stood in the doorway, watching his son's chest rise and fall, and said a silent prayer of thanks. The next morning, Leo woke him up by jumping on his stomach. Papa, Papa, the big man called. He asked if we could have waffles tomorrow. I said yes. Marcus groaned and rubbed his eyes. What time, buddy? Morning time. He said he has big news. He said he's going to ask Emily to marry him for real. He wants me to be there. Marcus smiled. Of course he does. You're his lucky charm. Leo beamed. I'm a lucky charm. Does that mean I get extra syrup? Marcus laughed and pulled his son into a hug. It means you get all the syrup. All the syrup in the world, buddy. Big man, why is your hand shaking? Julian looked down at Leo, who was standing next to him in the middle of the penthouse living room. The boy's head barely reached Julian's waist, but his eyes were sharp, missing nothing. Julian's hand, the one holding the small velvet box, was trembling like a leaf in a storm. I'm nervous, buddy. I'm really nervous. Leo nodded sagely. That's okay. Papa gets nervous too. Before he talks to people. Before he has to do hard stuff. Julian knelt down, so he was eye level with the boy. What does your papa do when he's nervous? Leo thought about it. He takes a deep breath. And he says, I can do this. And then he does it. Julian took a deep breath. His lungs expanded. His heart slowed. He said, I can do this. See, Leo grinned. It works. Marcus was standing by the window, pretending to look at the city skyline, but clearly watching the exchange out of the corner of his eye. He had been Julian's right hand for months now, helping him navigate the complicated waters of being a human being instead of a machine. He had seen Julian grow, stumble, get back up, and grow some more. You got this, man, Marcus said. She's been waiting for this. She's ready. Julian nodded. He looked at the ring in its box, the princess-cut diamond that Leo had picked out. It had been sitting in his safe for 3 weeks. He had been waiting for the perfect moment. And tonight, he had decided, was it that Emily was due to arrive in 10 minutes. Julian had planned everything. Candles, flowers, a string quartet hidden in the next room. He had even rehearsed his speech in the mirror, practicing until the words felt natural instead of scripted. Leo tugged on his sleeve. Big man, when you ask her, do you get on your knee? Yes, buddy. That's the tradition. Leo nodded. I saw it on TV. The lady always cries. She's gonna cry. Emily is a crier. Julian laughed. She is. She really is. The doorbell rang. Julian's heart jumped into his throat. He looked at Marcus, who gave him an encouraging nod. He looked at Leo, who gave him a thumbs up. I can do this, Julian whispered to himself. He walked to the door and opened it. Emily stood in the hallway. She was wearing a simple blue dress, the one he had bought her for her birthday last year. Her hair was down, curled at the ends. Her smile was nervous but genuine. Hey, she said. You look nice. You look beautiful, Julian said. His voice cracked slightly. He cleared his throat. Come in. She stepped inside. The candles flickered. The flowers were arranged on the coffee table. The string quartet, sensing the cue, started playing something soft and romantic. Emily looked around, her eyes wide. Julian, what's all this? Julian took her hand. He led her to the center of the room, where the candles cast dancing shadows on the walls. Leo and Marcus stood to the side, silent witnesses to the moment. Emily, Julian began. His voice was steadier than he expected. I know I don't deserve you. I know I've made mistakes. I know I've hurt you. But you gave me another chance. You believed in me when I didn't believe in myself. You showed me that I could be more than what I was. Emily's eyes glistened. Julian, he took a breath. He reached into his pocket and pulled out the ring box. He opened it. The diamond caught the candlelight and threw prisms across the room. Emily, I love you. I love you more than I ever thought I could love anyone. And I know I'm not perfect. I know I'm still learning. But I want to spend the rest of my life learning with you. I want to build a family with you. I want to wake up next to you every morning and fall asleep next to you every night. Emily, will you marry me? He got down on one knee. His hand was shaking again. But he didn't care that Emily stared at him. Her lip trembled. A single tear rolled down her cheek. Then another yes, she whispered. Yes, Julian. I'll marry you. Julian let out a breath he hadn't realized he was holding. He slid the ring onto her finger. It fit perfectly. Leo started clapping. She said yes. Big man, she said yes. Marcus clapped too. Way to go, man. Way to go. Emily pulled Julian to his feet and wrapped her arms around him. She was crying in earnest now, but she was laughing too. Julian held her tight, burying his face in her hair. I love you, he said. I love you so much. I love you too, Emily said. I always have. I always will. Leo ran over and hugged both of their legs. Can we have cake now? I saw a cake in the kitchen. It has sprinkles. Julian laughed. He picked Leo up and spun him around. We can have all the cake you want, buddy. All the cake. The night was perfect. They ate cake. They talked about the wedding. They made plans for a future that felt real and bright and full of possibility. After Emily left, Marcus stayed behind to help clean up. Leo was asleep on the couch, his face smeared with chocolate frosting. Julian, Marcus said, I'm proud of you. I know that doesn't mean much coming from me, but I am. You've come a long way. Julian sat down on the couch, careful not to wake Leo. It means everything, Marcus. You and Leo changed my life. I don't know how I'll ever repay you. Marcus shook his head. You don't have to repay me. Just keep being the man you've become. That's enough. Julian looked at Leo. The boy's chest rose and fell with the rhythm of sleep. His hand was curled around the dinosaur he always carried. He was so small, so innocent, and yet he had carried the weight of Julian's redemption on his tiny shoulders. Marcus, Julian said, I want to do something. Something big. Something that honors what Leo did for me. Marcus raised an eyebrow. What are you thinking? Julian leaned forward. I want to start a foundation. In Leo's name. A foundation that helps families in crisis. Families like yours. Families that are struggling, that are barely holding on. I want to give them a hand up. Just like you gave me a hand up. Marcus stared at him. His eyes were wet. Julian, that's incredible. Leo would be so honored. He doesn't need to know, Julian said. Not yet. He's too young to understand. But someday, when he's older, I want to tell him that he inspired something good. That he helped more people than he'll ever know. Marcus nodded slowly. I think that's a beautiful idea. I think you should do it. I already have the groundwork in place, Julian said. I've been meeting with lawyers. I've been setting up accounts. I wanted to wait until I had everything figured out before I told you. Marcus shook his head in amazement. You've been planning this for a while, haven't you? Julian nodded. Ever since that night in the lobby. The moment Leo offered me his binky, I knew I wanted to do something that would honor that moment. Something that would carry that kindness forward. Marcus reached out and put his hand on Julian's shoulder. Thank you. From the bottom of my heart. Thank you. Thank you, Marcus, Julian said. For everything. They sat in comfortable silence, watching Leo sleep. The city lights twinkled outside the window, a reminder that the world was still spinning, still full of possibilities. I'm going to be a good father, Julian said. I'm going to be the father Leo made me want to be. Marcus smiled. You will be. I know it. The wedding was set for 3 months later. Julian spared no expense. The venue was a vineyard in the countryside. The flowers were imported from Holland. The food was prepared by a Michelin-starred chef. Emily had tried to talk him down, but Julian insisted. I want to give you the wedding you deserve, he said. You've waited long enough. Marcus was Julian's best man. It was a role he never expected to fill, but he accepted with a mixture of pride and nervousness. Elena was Emily's maid of honor. Leo was the ring bearer, a job he took with the utmost seriousness. Do I have to walk slow? Leo asked Marcus during the rehearsal. Yes, buddy. Very slow. You have to hold the pillow and walk straight down the aisle. Leo nodded seriously. I can do that. I practiced. Marcus watched as Leo practiced walking with the ring pillow, his face a mask of concentration. He remembered the night in the lobby. He remembered the broken security panel. He remembered the tears. And he remembered the moment his son had changed everything. The wedding day arrived. The sun was shining. The vineyard was in full bloom. Emily walked down the aisle in a white dress that made her look like she was floating. Julian stood at the altar, his eyes wet, his heart full. When they exchanged their vows, Julian added something unexpected. "I want to thank a very special person," he said. "A person who helped me find my way back to myself. A person who showed me what it means to be kind. Leo, I know you don't understand all of this yet, but I want you to know that you saved my life. You gave me hope, and I will never, ever forget that." The crowd murmured. Leo, sitting on Marcus's lap, looked confused but pleased. Marcus squeezed his son's hand and Emily smiled. "We both owe Leo a lot. He's the reason we're here today. He's the reason we're getting married. He's the reason Julian is the man I always knew he could be." The ceremony continued. The rings were exchanged. The vows were spoken. And when Julian kissed his bride, the crowd erupted in applause. That after the reception, Julian found Marcus standing alone by the edge of the vineyard. The sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. "Marcus," Julian said, "I wanted to give you something. A thank you. For everything." He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small box. Inside was a key. "What's this?" Marcus asked. "An apartment. A good one. In a safe neighborhood. Near a good school. It's yours. Completely paid for. No rent. No mortgage. It's my gift to you and Elena and Leo." Marcus stared at the key. His throat tightened. "Julian, I can't accept this. It's too much. You can, and you will, because I want to give you the same thing you gave me. A chance. A fresh start. A way to build a better life." Marcus looked at the key. Then he looked at Julian. And then he did something he hadn't done in years. He cried. Not loud, not dramatic. Just silent tears streaming down his cheeks. "Thank you," Marcus whispered. "Thank you so much." Julian hugged him. "You're welcome. Now go find your family. Go tell them the good news." Marcus walked away, clutching the key like it was the most precious thing in the world. He found Elena and Leo on the dance floor. He wrapped his arms around them and told them about the apartment. Elena cried. Leo cheered. And for the first time in his life, Marcus Webb felt like he had finally, truly, made it. The future was bright. The future was full of hope. And it all started with a toddler and a broken security panel. The apartment was on the 7th floor of a building that had a doorman and an elevator that actually worked. Marcus stood in the middle of the living room, his shoes leaving faint impressions on the hardwood floor, and felt like he was dreaming. The windows were floor to ceiling, letting in light that made the space feel twice as big. The kitchen had granite countertops and stainless steel appliances. The bedrooms were large enough for a king-sized bed and still had room for a dresser. Leo was already running through the hallways, his footsteps echoing off the walls. Elena was standing in the kitchen, running her hand over the smooth surface of the counter, her eyes wet. "Marcus," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "This is ours." Marcus nodded. His throat was tight. "All ours." Elena walked over to him and wrapped her arms around his waist. She pressed her face into his chest. "I can't believe this. I can't believe any of this." Marcus held her tight. "Neither can I. But it's real. It's all real." Leo ran back into the living room, his dinosaur clutched to his chest. "Papa, Mama, my room is big. It has a window. I can see the park from my window." Marcus knelt down and pulled his son into a hug. "You're going to have your own room, buddy. Your own space. No more sharing with Mama's sewing stuff." Leo's eyes went wide. "I can put all my dinosaurs in there, all of them. Every single one." Leo let out a cheer that could have been heard 3 floors down. Marcus laughed. He hadn't laughed like this in years. He hadn't felt this light in decades. The move took a week. Julian hired a moving company, despite Marcus's protests. Boxes were packed, furniture was transported, and the new apartment slowly started to look like a home. Marcus hung pictures on the walls. Elena arranged the kitchen. Leo arranged his dinosaurs on the windowsill, facing out toward the park. The night they finished unpacking, Julian and Emily came over for dinner. It was a simple meal, takeout from the Thai place down the street, eaten on paper plates because the real ones were still buried in a box somewhere. Julian looked around the apartment with a satisfied smile. "It suits you," he said. "It's warm. It's real." Marcus nodded. "It's more than we ever dreamed of." "Thank you, Julian. I don't think I've said it enough. But thank you." Julian waved a hand. You've said it plenty. Now let's just enjoy this. Enjoy being here. Together. Emily leaned against Julian, her head on his shoulder. We should do this more often. Dinners. Just the four of us. And Leo, of course. Leo, who was sitting on the floor with his dinosaurs, looked up. Can we have pizza next time? I like pizza. Everyone laughed. It was the kind of easy, unforced laughter that came from being with people who truly cared about you. After dinner, Julian and Marcus stepped out onto the balcony. The city stretched out before them, a sea of lights and possibilities. Marcus, Julian said, I've been thinking about something. The foundation. I want to call it the Leo Project. In honor of your son. But I want you to be a part of it. I want you to help me run it. Marcus turned to him. Me, I don't have any experience with foundations. I'm just a security guard. You're not just a security guard. You're a man who has been through hell and come out the other side. You know what it's like to struggle. You know what it's like to need help. That's exactly the kind of person I want leading this foundation. Marcus was quiet for a long moment. He looked out at the city, at the lights that twinkled like distant stars. He thought about all the nights he had spent worrying, all the mornings he had woken up wondering how he was going to make it through. I don't know if I'm ready for that, he said, but I'm willing to try. Julian smiled. That's all I'm asking. The foundation launched 6 months later. It was a small operation at first, just Julian and Marcus and a handful of volunteers. But it grew quickly. They provided emergency housing for families facing eviction. They offered childcare subsidies for single parents. They funded job training programs for workers who had been laid off. Leo became the unofficial mascot. His face appeared on the website, beaming at the camera with his dinosaur in hand. The story of how a toddler had saved a CEO's life became the foundation's origin myth, a reminder that kindness could come from the most unexpected places. One evening, Marcus was working late at the foundation's office. The building was quiet. The phones had stopped ringing. He was reviewing applications when he heard a knock on the door. It was Julian. He looked tired but happy. Mind if I join you? Marcus gestured to the chair across from his desk. Always. Julian sat down. He was quiet for a moment. Then he said, Marcus, I've been thinking about something. Something I've never told anyone. Not even Emily. Marcus leaned forward. What is it? Julian took a breath. The night I came to the office. The night I broke down in the lobby. That wasn't the first time I thought about driving off a bridge. I had been thinking about it for months. I had a plan. I had a date. I was going to end it all on that Friday. But something stopped me. I don't know what. Maybe it was Leo. Maybe it was fate. Maybe it was just the universe telling me that I wasn't done yet. Marcus felt his chest tighten. Julian, I didn't know. No one did. I was good at hiding it. I was good at pretending to be fine. But I wasn't fine. I was drowning. And then I met Leo. And everything changed. Marcus reached across the desk and put his hand on Julian's arm. You're not drowning anymore. You're not alone. You have Emily. You have me. You have a whole team of people who care about you. Julian nodded. His eyes were wet. I know. That's why I wanted to tell you. Because you're the one who showed me that I could be saved. You and Leo. You gave me a reason to keep going. Marcus squeezed his arm. We all need a reason. Sometimes it comes from the most unexpected places. They sat in silence for a moment. The city hummed outside the window, a constant reminder that life was still moving, still happening. I'm going to be a father, Julian said suddenly. Emily is pregnant. We found out last week. Marcus's face broke into a grin. Julian, that's incredible. Congratulations. Julian smiled. It was a genuine, radiant smile. I'm terrified, but I'm also so excited. I want to be the kind of father Leo has. The kind of father who shows up, who listens, who loves unconditionally. Marcus nodded. You will be. I know you will be. You've got a good heart, Julian. You always did. You just had to find it. Julian laughed. Thanks, Marcus. I don't know what I did to deserve you. Same here, man. Same here. The baby was born 7 months later. A girl. They named her Lily. Julian held her in his arms, his face a mess of tears and joy, and whispered to her about the world she was about to enter. Leo met Lily a few days later. He peered into the bassinet with a look of intense concentration. She's small, he announced. Really small. Marcus laughed. You were that small once, buddy. I was. Leo looked skeptical. I don't believe you. She's got your eyes, Emily said. Both of you. Same color. Same spark. Julian looked at his daughter. He looked at his wife. He looked at Marcus and Leo. and he felt a warmth spread through his chest that he had never known was possible. It was the warmth of connection, of family, of love. Marcus, Julian said, I want you to be Lily's godfather. Marcus blinked. Julian, I don't know what to say. Say yes. I can't think of anyone I'd rather have watch over her. Marcus looked at Elena. She nodded. He looked at Leo. Leo gave him a thumbs up. Yes, Marcus said. I'd be honored. Julian smiled. Good. That's settled then. They stood around the bassinet. This strange, wonderful family that had come together through a broken security panel and a toddler's kindness. The future was uncertain. It always was. But for the first time in their lives, they all felt ready to face it. Leo tugged on Marcus's sleeve. Papa, can I tell her a secret? Marcus knelt down. What secret, buddy? Leo leaned in close to Lily and whispered. You're gonna be okay. The big man will take care of you. And so will I. Marcus felt his eyes sting. He pulled Leo into a hug and held him tight. You're a good kid, Marcus said. The best kid. Leo grinned. I know. I'm a lucky charm. They all laughed. The sound echoed through the room, a melody of hope and happiness. And in that moment, everything felt exactly right.